Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Historical Humans Podcast. My name is Justin Woods, and I'm joined today by my fellow co-hosts, Colum Coleman and Aaron Gilpin. And on today's episode, we are traveling to the wide expanses of South America, looking at some of the history of a couple of nations out there, and some of the things that unite them, and ways to explore every nation in a
Yeah.
quite suitable way, eh?
Yeah, we are looking at one man who, no one else looms quite as large as him in the history of this region or even the entire continent. Today's topic is none other than Simon Bolivar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is, I believe, the first time we at Historical Humans have dedicated a full podcast episode to talking about an individual person. So,
I mean, this man did a
Yep.
lot.
yeah,
This
Yeah.
man was just speed running everything.
He
Yeah.
quite literally just sped run and tried to get as many achievements as quickly as possible.
Like he's playing a game of Crusader Kings.
it's yeah, it's pretty interesting. So to get into the man himself, for those of you who do not know him, that's obviously why we're here. So Simon Bolivar was born in Caracas, Venezuela in 1783. He would die in Santa Marta, Colombia in 1830. What's important to know about him is that he was a Venezuelan aristocrat of Spanish descent. What this effectively meant was that he had power and ties to Europe. He's
I didn't
going
know
to
he was an
use that.
aristocrat.
He's going to use that as a means of excessive force.
Well, it's the European in him, let's be real.
Yeah,
That's that's the Spanish part. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Now, his father dies when he was 3, his mother dies when he is 9, and he is tutored by a man named Simon Rodriguez. Now, Rodriguez is going to become Bolivar's best friend for life and then some, and basically is responsible for everything this man does from here on out.
oh no.
Responsible?
Yep. So Rodriguez is an Enlightenment philosopher. He is a key historical figure in his own right. He is the man who introduces Bolivar to rationalism, to concepts of democracy and consent of the governed. He introduces him to a lot of these same philosophical standings that spark the American Revolution.
Oh wow.
Hey, if he liked liberty and freedom,
Yeah.
he's an
What's
American in
more-
my books.
What's more, and this is where things really start to cement Rodriguez as the catalyst for Bolivar, is in 1804, Rodriguez takes Bolivar to Paris to witness the coronation of Napoleon I as emperor following the success of the French Revolution.
Oh, this man was there.
Yep,
Talk
Yep.
about being in the right place at the right time.
yep. Now, Bolivar, upon witnessing the coronation of Napoleon, which was a very dramatic affair, there's a beautiful art painting, painting out there of it. I can't remember the name, but this was a very dramatic, very opulent affair. Bolivar, he's torn in two, and it's this divide that defines him for the rest of his life. On the one hand, he is appalled that Napoleon is willing to betray the democratic ideals of the revolution and the people of France. On the other hand, he cannot help feel that on some level this is right, and is impressed by the power and dignity of the accomplishments that this one man has done.
Ooh.
Bolivar is an authoritarian strongman who believes in, consent of the governed and Republican ideals.
So he
This
was
is-
a Napoleon fanboy,
Yeah,
to say the
Exactly.
least.
it's like more like he's the Napoleon on tour kind of thing. He's South American Napoleon, except he's actually way less of a horrible person to the people he beats up.
Oh man.
He is an aristocrat, so I guess.
Yeah, he's
An
Spanish
aristocrat.
Napoleon, for lack of a better term.
Napoleon de Sud America.
Now, now all this is great and wouldn't really mean much if it wasn't for one other person entering into the life of Bolivar here,
This
and
one's interesting.
that is a German of all things.
Da?
No,
Yep.
this is too
Too early.
this is
Too early.
too early
Too early.
for
Yeah.
Bismarck.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, this is Alexander von Humboldt. Von Humboldt is an ecologist who had just
Plot
completed a
twist.
tour of studying the life along the coastlines of South America. He is on his way home to Germany, going through France when he crosses paths with Bolivar. And it is here that this man, in all his wisdom, tells Bolivar that South America is ripe for independence. Time has come. Keep in mind, this man is not a political scientist. His job is to study fish and birds.
Mr. Bolivar, I am a man who knows two things: fish and revolution.
No, you guys are looking at it from the wrong angle. One, kind of a random cool fact, is the element Humboldtine is named after Alexander von Humboldt as an honor to him. But also, he probably approached him like, yes, I, a man who is wise in science, tell you that South America is ripe for revolution. Scientifically speaking.
You see wise in the Monty Python science? That seems to be the level of standard to go from like geology and animal behavior patterns to straight up political theory.
I mean, to be fair, it is
Physical
people
anthropology, right there.
early
People study primatology. They study how apes and other animals act and behave, and we can see that in human society that it is a species trait from our like far distant ancestors.
a lot of people.
I'm going to please ask Franz Boa to leave the room now.
No, bring Franz Boas in the room. We might need him.
And we are definitely. This leads to Bolivar taking Rodriguez with him to Rome, where he climbs Monte Sacro and announces to the Eternal City and all of no one who is listening that he will return to South America and free it from Spain, one and all.
Okay, I could just see this being a musical where he has a whole like musical piece singing to Rodriguez about they must be free. I must.
Hold on, wait.
Less
Wait, no, hold on.
miserables, but
Justin's
in
on
Spanish.
something. He's on to something. Hold on.
I'm just saying, like, I must go and save my land. There's already a great play called Evita about Evita Peron, so like it's not that far. Aaron, we need to.
Let's just
We need to workshop this, and we need to call Broadway.
Let's just sing "Les Miserables" in Spanish instead of French here, okay?
Hear the people sing.
We'll just do that
Song
instead.
of angry men.
Anyway, he returns to South America in 1807. And this is where we're going to take a moment to swivel away from the life and times of Bolivar here to give just a little bit of context about how South America is divided up, at least the Spanish parts of it, in the hopes of just better understanding what is going to happen when the guns start firing. So at this time, South America is ostensibly divided into 4 viceroyalties, each of which are in turn subdivided. You have the viceroyalty of New Spain, which is Mexico and, for a time, the southwestern portion of the United States. Hello, California. We're looking at you. Yeah. Then there is New Granada, which is Panama, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, part of Peru, part of Brazil, basically where we're going to be spending most of our time today. Next, we have The viceroyalty of Peru, which is Peru and also Chile, because I guess we can just give all the coastline to somebody for some reason. And then finally, Rio de la Plata, which is Argentina, Bolivia, Paraguay, and Uruguay. And so we got these four, speed run categories. We are going to be bouncing around between them for a little bit. But right now, we just need to know Venezuela and New Granada, because those are going to be the first part of Bolivar's revolutions.
So you
Bolivar,
say you want a revolution?
Bolivar leaves Europe in 1807, gets back home in 1808, immediately starts plotting revolution.
I can't blame him.
I want to say, this is where, as an American, I'm proud to take claim, because the American Revolution inspired the French. The French Revolution clearly inspired Bolivia.
Don't forget the French Revolution not only inspired the American and also the Haitian, and now the Bolivian.
Yep. So here's where that tie actually gets a little bit stronger, because Napoleon does Bolivar a solid here by attacking Spain.
Oh, there's instability at the bridges.
Yep. This unsettles the central Spanish authority. It makes it apparent that if Spain can't keep Spain intact, why are we listening to Spain?
The stupid Americans got their freedom. Why can't we?
Yeah. Now, the second thing that Napoleon does is he fails to win the support of the Spanish colonies in his conquest of Spain. Instead, what they do is what is called a junta, which is a committee that is put in place to rule in the name of the Spanish crown. What this means is that, Venezuela, Peru, New Granada, De La Plata, all these places suddenly have independent governments with questionable legitimacy.
Wait, so these are very decentralized governorships?
Yeah.
So the viceroyalties are effectively, these are the overall colonies that have governors in them.
Yeah.
And what is effectively happening is, with Spain in turmoil, each of these governors at various levels is declaring themselves the head of a council of regents to rule the colony on behalf of the Spanish crown. So, since the governor no longer has the authority of "I'm appointed by the King of Spain," they then create the authority of "I'm ruling on behalf of the King of Spain, whoever that may be."
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
So Bolivar was revolting against the colonial government effectively, because there was no projection from the crown.
Yeah, it creates the opportunity because suddenly the source of all the governors' legitimacy is gone, and they're more or less trying to create their own legitimacy through this assembled council of people that they're gathering to say, I'm not ruling alone. I'm ruling as part of a committee of regents on behalf of the Spanish crown until the crown is restored to its proper place in Spain. This would be the equivalent of a U.S. state, the governor of one of those, turning around and declaring themselves ruling with the absolute authority of the president on behalf of the president, whomsoever that may be. You can see how that would suddenly not fly for a lot of people living in that state.
Especially if it was Texas.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the one, but they wouldn't. Yeah. They wouldn't work in favor of the president.
Yep.
No, that's true.
Yep. Now, a lot of the Spanish colonists see the writing on the wall and go, "How about no?" And on,
I love it.
Yep. And on April 19th, 1810, the governor of Venezuela is expelled. And with his expulsion, Bolivar, being a proud revolutionary and a man of the Spanish aristocracy, is dispatched to London as the diplomat from the newly liberated Republic of Venezuela. There, his job, much like a number of statesmen during the American Revolution, is to garner foreign aid for the newly fledged republic, because you're not a legitimate nation until other nations say you are. It's a weird rule, but it's the way the world works.
Yeah, that unfortunately tracks.
Yep. Now, in his diplomatic efforts, he fails miserably. The English will not send money, arms, support, anything. They just turn him out. But he does have a way of finding people. And in this, Bolivar is very successful. So the first thing he does is he makes a copy of how the British run their parliaments and says, this seems like a functional government in which rich people get a lot of say. That will track pretty well for all the other rich people I know who are trying to figure out how to run Venezuela. The second thing he does is he finds Francisco de Miranda and convinces him to return to Venezuela, something he will immediately regret doing. Now, Miranda was a mighty figure in the history of Venezuela. He was a visionary and a revolutionary and a military general who had failed in 1806 to launch a coup and single-handedly overthrow the colonial government of Venezuela. He's been living in exile, and when Miranda returns to Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, he immediately assumes control as the head of the government, because he's the man with the most political chops, military experience, etc. He's kind of the pre-Bolivar here. He's the man everyone.
Friends. They're not gonna like that.
Yeah, no. He's the man everyone looks up to. Sort of like if George Washington walked into the Continental Congress and said, "Do this," everyone would listen. That's kind of how Miranda is at this time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because really, I mean, like,
yeah,
despite a revolution takes a lot of effort, but like we all still kind of gravitate towards the one person who we we just all respect.
You have that national identity tied to that heroic figure.
Yeah, and right now for the fledgling revolution, that is Miranda. This will not last. Now, on March of 1811, there's a national congress in Caracas to draft the constitution of the new republic. Bolivar is not a delegation for this. He's not supposed to be here.
Oh.
He shows up anyway and starts giving speeches.
This man just walked in like the main character. It was just like, alrighty, we are here to debate the topics, and here's what we should talk about. Yep. He just commandeered it. I love it.
Yeah. It's his first political speech. It's his first time doing this in public. He gets a taste for it. Pisses Miranda off.
Oh, of course.
To no end. The National Assembly declares Venezuela's independence on July 5th, 1811. I appreciate them waiting the day. And with the now fully formed government of the new republic, Bolivar does the next best thing he can and enlists in the Venezuelan army.
Okay.
The commander-in-chief of this army is Miranda.
Oh, okay.
Now, Bolivar and Miranda have had this falling out ever since Miranda's return. Miranda looks at Bolivar as a dangerous idealist. His exact words are, "This is a dangerous youth." He thinks Bolivar is going to be a radical, he's going to be aggressive, that he is not going to stop until he has the world. Miranda is right about this.
He's technically not wrong, but maybe
Yep.
not as extreme.
Yeah. Bolivar looks at Miranda and basically just calls him an old man. He's worried that this general who is old at this time is a man whose glory is behind him and who will not have the vigor and capacity to maintain a modern state in war in the present day. He thinks Miranda's stuck in the past.
He really said the future is now, old man.
Yeah. He starts openly questioning Miranda's general competence.
Oof.
That aside, both men recognize each other as still skilled, and he is placed in charge of Puerto Cabello, which is a key Venezuelan port. However, he also loses the Venezuelan Republic with this posting, as he is unable to control his own men, and an unnamed traitor opens the port to the Spanish, resulting in the collapse of the Republic. There's an unfavorable armistice in July of 1812. Venezuela is left at the mercy of Spain, and Miranda is sent to a Spanish dungeon by Bolivar, where Miranda then dies.
You know, Venezuela is clearly getting has a history of getting the short end of the stick, unfortunately.
Oh man, that is like the ultimate attack on your enemy, though.
Yeah. Miranda is attempting to do what he did in 1806, which is
it's like a telenovela.
Yeah.
The whole history of Venezuela a telenovela?
Yes.
No, telenovelas are far too mild.
Anyway, especially when you hear the later parts.
Yeah. So basically, Miranda is attempting to flee the country like he did in 1806. Spain blames Miranda for the revolution. So what Bolivar and his friends do is they abduct Miranda and hand him over to the Spanish.
Are you sure this isn't telenovela? Listen, this sounds very telenovela.
If it is, we're at like the season 1 finale, and it's only going to escalate from here.
No, this
Colum, have you ever seen Jane the Virgin?
Anyway, Bolivar somehow manages to get a hold of a Spanish passport for himself and flees to Cartagena, New Granada.
This absolute mad lad.
I love it.
He proceeds to write a political manifesto called the Cartagena Manifesto.
Hold on, wait a minute. I've heard this story before.
Wait, Revolutionary Manifesto? What?
He writes this. This is only the first one that he writes. He's gonna write like 2 more.
Oh my god!
Now, during this time, he attributes the fall of the Venezuelan Revolution to a lack of a strong central government.
Oh, thank God! We tend to know where that leads when someone starts blaming.
Yep. And he calls upon all the peoples of South America to form a single united revolution and overthrow Spain.
And he took that personally.
He
took that personal.
Did he happen to have contact with Karl Marx?
We're looking about a century apart here.
No, Karl
Marx was late 1800s, but this is like probably 30, 50 to 60 years pre-Marx.
So Karl Marx may have written to him in his youth.
Yeah, Marx looked up to Bolivar.
I don't know what
Well,
Marx a political figure by 1830, because that's the cutoff line for anyone ever speaking to Bolivar ever.
I mean, like in his youth, like he was like younger when he
Marx was born in 1818. So no, he didn't really come to prominence till the 1840s.
I don't not prominence, like before he got big, like Abraham Lincoln when he was a lawyer.
Unless Marx is writing to a political figure across the sea at the age of 12, Marx and Bolivar did not directly interact.
You don't know that.
Oh my God! No! We're not going to insinuate that Bolivar is grooming Marx.
No, not that. Oh my God! You went full Minecraft YouTuber.
Anyway, Anyway, where's the spray bottle? I gotta get you guys back in line. Anyway, Bolivar's words, they strike pay dirt. He finds a backing in New Granada and sets out to retake Venezuela. Wins a 6-battle campaign to retake Caracas on August the 13th. August the 6th, 1813. Where he declares himself liberator. He gives himself the title liberator and assumes a dictatorship and total control of Venezuela.
My man was playing a single-player D&D campaign.
Now,
actually, this is exactly who you would play as a D&D character.
Yeah, this is 100%.
Now, remember how we said that Bolivar hated how Napoleon betrayed revolutionary ideals, but also loved how much power Napoleon could get a hold of by doing so?
Is the pot about to call the kettle black?
Yes.
Now, this is where we see that. He takes Liberator as the title and makes himself immortal dictator for life in all things. The people of Venezuela do not consent to authoritarianism and immediately rebel.
Aww. Are we surprised, though?
And
we can't have anything nice, can we? But this is what we get for trusting rich people.
Yeah. A very bloody civil war breaks out that, due to the fact that we broadcast on YouTube, we will not be going into the details of, but suffice to say that everyone involved in it, including and quite possibly especially Bolivar, would be executed as a war criminal 10 times over for what they do.
Oh.
Bolivar's response to rebellion is to take all the prisoners he can gather and publicly execute them.
Ooh.
The brutality backfires. The Spanish gather all of the Spanish cowboys from the plains, have them ride roughshod cavalry through anything loyal to Bolivar, and kill everyone.
Damn.
So, Spain and their war crimes.
Yeah, Spain and Bolivar. Bolivar loses the Civil War and is ousted by Spain in 1814. And for the sake of his public image, this is ultimately for the best.
Oh, no. So what you're saying is the best is yet to come.
Well, I'm saying he gets to redeem himself, or at least do PR salvage, instead of being known as that guy who made himself dictator for life and then started executing civilians.
I mean, that sounds like most other dictators in my mind.
I mean,
Yeah, he gets to rebrand himself.
Oh no, the first successful PR rebranding.
Yep. Because he flees to Cartagena, where he is commissioned by Cartagena to put down revolutionaries in Bogota. He succeeds at putting down the revolution in Bogota, turns around, lays siege to Cartagena.
Hold on, wait a minute. The revolutionary is
He
fighting against...
puts down a revolt against New Granada in Bogota, turns around, besieges the capital of New Granada in his own revolution.
This man is playing both sides, so he always comes out on top.
So
clearly.
You say you want a revolution.
Yep.
Well,
However, stabbing your fellow revolutionaries and then expecting them to back you does not create a united front. His revolution falls apart. He flees to Jamaica.
I like his strategy. Deploy, retreat. Deploy, retreat.
Yep. There, he goes back to what he was doing during the first time there was a revolution in Venezuela, or at least one that he was a part of. He starts asking the British for aid. And here he writes his second political manifesto, The Letter from Jamaica.
I don't know if I want to know this manifesto again after how things have turned out.
Now, this manifesto is a little bit more well thought out. Instead of ascribing blame, its purpose is to show the British that there is going to be a very British-friendly, British-style government in South America if they just, wink, wink, beat up Spain.
Well, there's nothing that the British love more than the British.
I know,
They
it's
also,
terrible.
I mean, this is the end of I guess, because generally the British love pirating Spanish treasure ships, but
Yeah.
this isn't the 1500s anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what this lays out is two claims and then a promise. The first claim is that the American colonies were severed from Spain. That Spain and the Americas, they no longer have those strong ethnic ties that they had when Hernando Cortez first came over the horizon and murdered everybody.
That's what he wants to call it.
Yeah. Number two, he claims that the people of Hispanic America would fight bloody revolution after bloody revolution until they were freed, more or less saying, we're going to be to Spain what the Irish are quickly becoming for you.
That does not sound very appealing, though.
Yeah, no. And then there's the promise, where he says that all these Spanish colonies should and will, if Britain aids them, be governed by a British parliamentary-style republic. Which means
now he's just ass kissing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's both ass kissing and also what he thinks makes a good government. Because remember, he's the British Parliament and became enamored with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the British have a good system, a relatively good, simple system of governance, so he can see that and makes sense. But I like some of the things with that, where, like the British Parliament, they have the hereditary upper legislature, which is titleage, peerage, and then you have the elected lower house. But then you also have a life-term president.
Yep. But
I don't like that. I don't think I like that.
Yeah,
fuck the hereditary positions.
Yeah, this man wants
not the life-term president.
Yeah, this man is an authoritarian dictator who wants a constitutional republic, but can't see how those two forces are opposed.
Oh my god, it's like he's trying to figure out how to make gold from lead. He's like, listen, these things are two separate things. They clearly have to work.
He just wants to be life president.
But doesn't want the downfall.
Yeah.
He wants to be
he just doesn't want to be ousted, so he's like, look, you have a great system here. It's functional. He's basically replacing the monarch in the previous constitutional republics of England, where the monarch would also contribute, but in this role, it's a president, because that's so much different, and it's life term.
That just sounds like monarchy with extra steps.
Yes.
Yep. That's just oppression with extra steps. Anyway, remember how we were joking earlier about how the American Revolution inspired the French Revolution, inspired the Haitian Revolution, inspiring this revolution?
Yes.
Well, guess where he gets most of his aid from?
Please tell me French.
America.
The Haitians.
Oh.
Plot twist!
The Haitians arm him.
Wow.
I'm curious as to why. Other than,
because Haiti at this time is going through mass ethnic violence and needs to sell off its excess weaponry to someone.
I forgot that happened.
Yeah, that's fair.
Haiti recently revolted from France very successfully and is currently going through the process of flipping coins as to which color skin gets you killed.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yep.
I remember bits of their racial identity system.
Yeah. Now, Spain responds to this in 1815 by launching the largest expeditionary force to ever cross the Atlantic in an effort to hold on to their colonies against Bolivar.
Oof.
These forces are commanded by Pablo Morillo, They are tasked with ending revolution in the Americas, and 3 years of indecisive warfare between Morillo and Bolivar ensue.
A war of attrition.
Yep. Bolivar sets up his headquarters in the Orinoco River region in 1817, and it is here that he begins to make his move for success. He is reinforced by foreign soldiers, several thousand of them, mostly British and Irish. Guess the letter from Jamaica worked after all.
Oh wow.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah, there was a huge foreign legion of Irish soldiers. I'm pretty sure Bolivar's second in command was an Irishman who then ended up helping us save a lot of his records by defying Bolivar's command.
Yep.
I don't
Yeah.
know if you touch on that in this.
I unfortunately do not touch on him. There are a couple other Hispanic revolutionaries that get touched on, but there is a force of 2,500 Irish soldiers that Bolivar will take over the Andes for a midnight Hannibal Barca raid.
Hey, Colum, refresh my mind real quick. What happened in Ireland at the turn of the 1800s there?
We're not talking about that right
What,
now.
but why would a lot of them have military training and become foreign mercenaries?
Why do I hear black and tins in the background?
So many things. So many things. There was 1798. There was so many other things after that.
The Irish were well-seasoned fighters in revolutionary forces, is what I'm getting at. And the fact that they joined Bolivar gave a layer of authenticity to the revolts.
Yeah. From about the 1600s to like the mid 1900s, the Irish really do earn the nickname the Fighting Folk.
The Fighting Irish.
Yep. Yeah.
They always have my respect.
Yeah. Now, what he does here is Bolivar, with his headquarters on the Orinoco River, is he proves himself to be an international statesman because his dream of unification finally comes to fruition when he manages to successfully ally himself with not one, but two other major revolutionary forces. Those of Jose Antonio Paez and Francisco de Paula Santander, two men who will most definitely come back to haunt Bolivar's every decision.
Oh, no.
That's right. Nothing can go right for Bolivar for very long. Now, with the support of Santander and Paez, he is able to conceive of a master plan to take New Granada in the spring of 1819. This is considered one of the most daring attacks in military history. What it is he leads 2,500 men, almost all of which are Irish, mercenaries, through the flooded plains of the rainy season Amazon and over the frozen Andes Mountains. He takes them through the pass of Pispa, which the Spanish had deemed an impassable gap in the mountains.
So you're saying he's the South American Hannibal?
Yeah. Many of his men die from cold and exposure attempting to cross from literally waist-deep water to frostbitten mountains.
It's like Lord Farquaad. That is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Some of you may die.
And the scary thing is that it's worth it. He's able to enter New Granada undetected. He's able to surprise the Spanish at the Battle of Boyaca on August 7th, during which he captures the majority of the Spanish forces in South America. He enters Bogota unopposed on August 10th.
That's insane.
Wow.
There, Bolivar appoints Santander vice president, tasks Santander with running the new revolutionary government, while Bolivar is off as president and, general of the military, conquering the rest of the Spanish colonies. And this is where things start getting really shaky and really monumental. Because he takes a pit stop in his military campaign in December of 1819 to appear before the assembled Congress of the Revolution and be appointed president and dictator.
He just can't let that go, can he?
No.
Again, with every title, he's like, we have to add that. It has to be there. I need.
But guys, I need to be dictator.
Look
like,
at Napoleon.
for reals.
Look at Napoleon. He's just like pointing like a child.
Yep. 3 days.
But don't you hate Napoleon for betraying the ideals of the revolution? Shut up.
He did it for a good reason.
I just like the aesthetic, guys.
You hate
it's
the
not
people
that
you
problematic.
Love the most. You hate the people you love the most.
Yeah.
Guys, it's not problematic. The aesthetic's just cool.
It's just so handsome.
I just love the uniforms.
Now, 3 days after he declares himself effectively monarch, Bolivar Bolivar announces the establishment of Gran Colombia, also known as the Republic of Colombia, and it consists of 3 equal departments: New Granada, which is now the nations of Colombia and Panama; Venezuela, which is now, surprisingly, Venezuela; and Quito, which is now Ecuador. One problem with this: almost all of Gran Colombia is still under Spanish military control.
So they kind of put the cart before the horse then.
What it does do for him is it sets an established boundary for the revolution. It sets an established nation and political identity, and basically gives the revolution clear borders to fight for. It's a manageable goal. You are no longer freeing everything from the Falkland Islands to California. You are just freeing this.
That's fair.
Yeah. Now, things take a major turn in Bolivar's favor in 1820, when the King of Spain, Ferdinand VII, is forced to yield civil liberties on the home front. Basically, he's no longer an absolute monarch, which means that if the crown is no longer the absolute authority on everything, then maybe having a republic isn't so far-fetched for a Spanish person to be a part of. Bolivar uses this weakness to negotiate a 6-month ceasefire with Morillo in November of 1820. This ceasefire proves to be a mistake for Morillo. Morillo agrees to it because there's really no one giving him orders right now from Spain, given the fact that the government just underwent a peaceful revolution back home. So Morillo's not really sure if he's supposed to keep shooting at Bolivar. 6 months pass. Bolivar is, Morillo is cleared to shoot at Bolivar again, but Bolivar is ready, and Bolivar just starts winning. He wins almost immediately upon the resumption of hostilities. He frees the entirety of Venezuela with the Battle of Carabobo in June of 1821. Meanwhile, the Constitution of Gran Colombia is drafted by a Congress in Calcutta. Bolivar immediately objects to its civil liberties, thinking that it grants the people too many freedoms. However, he's too preoccupied fighting Morillo to do much about it.
Oh no, too many civil liberties. The horror.
Yeah, this will come back to haunt Bolivar later, like most things that Bolivar does.
I can't imagine making that many enemies while you're doing the type of work that he does.
Yeah. Bolivar liberates Quito a year after the Constitution is drafted. This is thanks to the efforts of another revolutionary, Antonio José de Sucre, who wins for him the Battle of Pichincha in 1822. Sucre is going to be Bolivar's right hand for a number of military campaigns from here on out. It is also at this time that Bolivar meets the love of his life and fellow extremist and revolutionary, uh, Manuela Saenz. They fall in love, they get married.
Nope,
It's a very
nope,
happy ending for them.
nope, no, they did not. It's
Oh, that's right. That's right. They just fall in love.
he
He
so
can't even get that. That's right. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't. Should
Bolivar
have.
was previously married. His
Yep.
first wife was Maria Teresa Rodriguez del
Yep.
Toro y Alicia, but they married in 1802 and she died in 1803. And one of the promises that he made with her on her deathbed was that he would never remarry.
And
So
you're telling me this isn't a telenovela?
I'm
Yeah.
saying it is. It really is.
Yep.
So Manuela Sáenz was his lover and his domestic partner, but never his wife. She never earned that title.
Yep. Open. It's like way to go for the open relationship card there, Bolivar. That's a.
It's not even an open relationship. It
Yep.
just they were together. They just never had that title because he made that promise to his first love and held on to it.
Yes, but these are Spanish Catholics, and he's living with a woman whom he is openly in love with, and they are not married. Do you have any idea the balls it takes for that play?
Actually, so to answer that, part of the way they got around with it was they were hardly ever together. They stayed together on occasion, but they were usually separated because Bolivar was off being a revolutionary. And she was also a revolutionary that helped spread the cause, but she did it more from the home front versus on the battlefield.
Yeah, she was a very talented propagandist.
Oh.
Yeah. Here's where things really go well for Bolivar too. Gran Colombia receives recognition from the U.S. following the liberation of Quito. Now, this means that Monroe Doctrine suddenly applies to Gran Colombia.
Oh,
Any
no.
attempt by Spain to invade or retake it will be met by the full force of the U.S. Navy.
Wait a minute, isn't this how Panama ends up becoming? Oh my God, that's right.
Later.
Panama.
Later, we have to kill Bolivar first, and that's not going to happen for a while.
He is just that unkillable.
Yep.
He's too handsome to die.
And this brings us to Bolivar's international affairs, namely Peru. Bolivar
International
realizes
spy?
that there's this landmass on his border that he doesn't own. Bolivar does not seem to agree with that. Now, Peru and Upper Peru are the only territories in South America at this time still in Spanish hands. Spain had just been driven from Argentina by Jose de San Martin. San Martin had been unable to pursue the Spanish into the Peruvian highlands. To rectify this, Bolivar and San Martin hold the Guayaquil Conference in Ecuador in July of 1822. The exact details of their conversation is not known, but it is understood that they discussed the problem of the Spanish in Peru. And at the end, San Martin recognized that there was heavy opposition to his rule in Lima. But San Martin had marched into Lima and declared Peru free. However, the Peruvians weren't too happy with him, namely because Peru wanted to be Peru and not Argentina or Gran Colombia. So San Martin resigns his office and goes into exile following this conference. This leaves Bolivar as the sole revolutionary leader of the war for Peru. Bolivar leads his armies to Lima in September of 1823 and begins an all-out assault on the Spanish highlands, the Spanish-held highlands in 1824. Bolivar wins the first battle, which is the Battle of Junin, leaves the war in the hand of Sucre. Sucre wins the Battle of Ayacucho on December 9th in 1824 and ends the war. Bolivar is now president of Gran Colombia and dictator of Peru.
Again, that title, he just keeps racking it up.
Yeah.
If I had a nickel for every time that man tried to be like emperor and governor and all that, I'd have a lot of nickels.
Well, you're about to get one more. Because the next thing he does is he sends his trusty best friend here, Sucre, to liberate Upper Peru. Upper Peru is liberated in April of 1825. Bolivar renames Upper Peru Bolivia in his own honor.
Oh, so that's how
Well,
that happened.
yep,
Bolivia.
yep. Bolivar decides enough is enough. I'm tired of inheriting governments that were drafted by other people. I'm going to write my perfect government for my country that is my namesake.
Screw you guys. I'm gonna go start my own government with blackjack and hookers.
My greatest legacy will be the name that the country that bears my name.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, that's an egotist's dream.
Yeah. I know.
What greatest honor?
Alexander named over 50 cities after himself. Bolivar named a country. Who
Take
wins?
that. Take that, Alexander. Not to mention, Bolivar liberated a continent.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
didn't see Alexander doing that. He made his
He
way
kinda
barely
got
into Asia, and that was it.
He
Yeah.
made it all the way to India.
Barely into Asia.
Anyway,
What?
anyway, ignoring the fact that the Middle East is technically not a continental plate, Bolivar's constitution for Bolivia is an interesting one. First things first, he appoints himself as lifetime president.
Again, lifetime. Every time it's
Yep.
a lifetime.
Second thing,
Can you
second,
just like do like maybe like a year, like 10 years?
4 years.
no,
even?
no, lifetime. Authority can't be variable. Second thing he does is he sets up a tri-cameral legislature. That's 3 houses of Congress.
What's better than
Oh.
2? 3.
Now, if you wonder why nothing gets done without Bolivar's say-so in Bolivia, this is why.
Explains a lot.
And finally, in order to ensure that the right sort of people are running the government at all times, he imposes a very heavily restricted suffrage law, which forbids almost everyone from serving in or voting for the legislator.
No.
What's the point?
Power
Again, he
and
can't-
money.
He is a rationalist. He is an Enlightenment philosopher. He believes in these ideals. He's just convinced that absolute authority is the only way to get things done, because at this point he's been a military man for almost 20 years.
Listen, we keep calling this man like rational and enlightened, but Caesar had the same idea.
Here's the thing.
Thousands of years.
No, we're not calling him rational and enlightenment. We're calling him a rationalist, which is a school of philosophy. And we're referring to enlightenment, which is another school of philosophy.
Yeah, they really need to get different names for
He's
these
just
guys.
an enlightened folk. That's all he is. He's just a little
Think
guy.
Hobbes and Voltaire, guys. Hobbes and Voltaire.
I
Look
don't
these
like
people
them.
up.
He's just a little guy, Aaron.
Yeah.
He's not just a little. What?
Yeah.
He's not Napoleon.
No.
Hey, Napoleon was average for his age.
Now, we go to the phase of Bolivar's life, which is his statesmanship and subsequent civil war. Bolivar's done conquering. The Spanish have been driven out of South America, of Hispanic America, of all of it, either through Bolivar's efforts or through independent revolutions like those that happened in Argentina under San Martin. Bolivar is now the ruler of Gran Colombia, Bolivia, and Peru. To further his goal of a unified Hispanic America, he launches the first ever real attempt at a permanent international league. This predates the League of Nations and is kind of meant to be a mini UN, but for former Spanish colonies only.
Oh, so like a British Commonwealth.
Except
they actually have a say.
There's no Britain. Except there's no Britain.
Just the way I like it.
Yeah, I like that. Imagine.
Yeah. He establishes the League of Hispanic American States in 1826, which is a series of international treaties between American republics that began to coalesce in 1824, but wasn't formally anything functional until 1826. It held its first meeting under Bolivar in Panama. It was only attended by Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Central America. Central America, like Gran Colombia, would later break apart. The plan was to enact a unified Hispanic American Army and Navy, of which there were several proposals. And it established a treaty of alliance that was only ratified by Colombia.
Oh.
Because how these conferences worked was you would send representatives from your nation to negotiate your nation's interests, do sort of a what's going on in your country meet and greet, and then you would come back with a bunch of political proposals that everyone at the conference had agreed were not entirely offensive to you. And then your government would go before the Congress of your government, and your Congress would vote whether or not they agreed with this treaty. And everyone but Gran Colombia said no when it got back home.
Oh.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because Bolivar was a little too vague, a little too open.
Well, Bolivar's a little too big for his time. Bolivar is thinking along the same lines as FDR does, over a century later. The concept of a continent or global-sized, unified international government isn't anything people are thinking about at this time. We're in the rise of nationalism right now. People are thinking in terms of what is my ethnicity, what is my sovereignty. And so global empire as an alliance is a concept that is too big and too far ahead for most of his contemporaries, for most of the other nations he's talking to. Bolivar can see the future. He's just 120 years ahead of it.
It's the future he can see. Simon Bolivar.
He is genuinely a visionary in regards to the concept of international cooperation and globalization.
It's such a double-edged sword because he really did have great ideas and had a grand vision. However, he just couldn't get out of his own way of wanting to be a dictator. It's like the ego got in front of him every single time.
And his biggest issue is he doesn't realize that most of the people in the world around him are struggling with the concept of nationalism and nation states and how ethnicity plays a role in identity and governance. This is something that's very much just coming to the fore of the world because the world has finally begun to move away from your nationality is whatever the king that rules over you says it is. And your ethnicity really only plays into social standing under that. We're moving into the era where ethnicity becomes the basis of a nation. And that's going to lead to a lot of horrible things come World War I.
Nationalism, it's part of mania, if you ever learned it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's, he doesn't understand why people are still on the first concept and haven't jumped to where he is.
Come on, guys, I'm on page 92.
Come on, guys, get on my level.
Yeah. Anyway, following the failure of this conference, Venezuela and New Granada, who are unhappy with the constraints of Gran Colombia, go to war with each other. Now,
because why not?
Yeah. Now, Paez, who you might remember as one of the revolutionaries that Bolivar aligned with all the way back in 1817, is in charge of Venezuela. And Santander, another one of those revolutionaries, is in charge of New Granada. They hate each other. They are unified by Bolivar's military capability and nothing else. So while Bolivar is in Panama trying to talk Mexico into joining his club of nations, they go at it.
Oh.
Join my club. It's fun. They're all
Yeah.
just like the other two are just fist fighting.
Yeah, it's like camera pans up from him giving the pitch to them just boxing it out behind the scenes.
Yeah. Now when everything boils over into fighting, Bolivar is back in Lima trying to establish the government of Peru. Or at least solidify it. It's been a few years, but he's trying to fix that problem. He immediately leaves Lima, rushes home, and more or less abandons Peru, to which Peru is generally seen as grateful for getting out from under Bolivar's thumb here. The Peruvians did not want to be a part of Gran Colombia. They did not like having Venezuelan influence on how they did their business. They didn't like it any more than they liked the Argentinians telling them what to do, except they kind of didn't have the military to say no to the Venezuelans.
Hate when that happens.
Yeah. But this costs Bolivar his rule of Peru. And when Bolivar gets back to Gran Colombia, he finds that Santander has been upholding the Constitution, which Bolivar hates, and Paez to be rebelling against said Constitution in an effort to secure more power for himself. Bolivar decides that this is a great time to reconcile with Paez in 1827, because this is a wonderful opportunity for him to declare himself dictator and immediately throw out that constitution that kept giving all these people civil liberties.
Again, every time he gets in his own way. I'm the dictator, though. I'm the dictator. I didn't vote for you.
He keeps doing the same thing. He's a rationalist. He called himself a rationalist. Motherfucker keeps doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Rationalism really just means I have a reason for doing what I'm doing. As long as your logic is internally consistent, you're technically a rationalist.
You know, I truly admire Bolivar because he also employed the logic that I adore of the ends justify the means. It doesn't matter what you do in the interim as long as you hit your end goal.
Yeah, that's not a trait to admire someone about, Justin. So, now that he's gotten rid of the Constitution, he holds a national convention to draft a new one in April of 1828. Bolivar does something that does prove that he, despite all of his authoritarian tendencies, does believe in some form of democracy, because he refuses to influence the election. He refuses to say what should happen, what political views are his, what he wants from the Constitution, none of it. He says the people must vote, and the representatives shall represent them, and those shall be the people that will draft our Constitution. This backfires on him spectacularly, because he is beholden to two separate sets of ideals, and he doesn't seem to realize it. The elections are held, he doesn't interfere, and the liberals, under Santander, the man he just snubbed, win a majority. And it's not a small majority either.
Oh no.
Getting aid.
My people will vote for me. They will truly see my vision.
They love me.
They love me.
Santander proceeds to systematically block all of Bolivar's attempts to strengthen presidential powers and make it so that the president does everything, and the Congress basically is a yes man that applauds him.
Delusions of grandeur get you every time.
However, Bolivar is nothing if not resourceful. I mean, he's been a rebel of like 5 revolutions at this point. He knows how to get around a losing hand. So what he does is he declares that the old Constitution is invalid, and because he and this new National Assembly can't come onto an agreement as to what a new constitution should look like. Gran Colombia has no constitution. Gran Colombia needs no constitution. And declares himself the absolute authority of all things. Until there is a constitution, which he is most very much definitely writing, it's just this pesky Congress that keeps holding him up by saying no to it.
Oh my god.
Bolivar is nearly assassinated for this on September 15th, 1828. About 20 people break into his house at night with knives. He barely gets out.
No, not just that. Okay, we mentioned her earlier. This is had to do with his lover Manuela, because she overheard people conspiring against him, and when they broke in, she distracted them and she told him to climb out the window, and then she led them on a goose chase through the household looking for him. She kept leading them to different areas to try and distract them while he got away, and then eventually they just gave up. They're like, we can't find him, he's gone.
Yeah.
And she helped him oust all his competitors, all his political opponents afterwards, because she ratted on him because she was helping him chase him out of the house.
Yep.
Like, his woman is just as badass, if not more badass. And I hate that I said his woman, because I don't want to call her his wife, his
Mistress.
domestic partner. Yeah. Well, they're not a mistress because he was single.
It's technically a mistress. Even if they're single.
Listen,
Okay,
Manuela is as much a force to be reckoned with as Bolivar was. Let's just leave it at that.
But that's such a badass story.
Stop debating semantics. Anyway, yep. However, with this, the writing is on the wall. Peru proceeds to invade Ecuador to annex Guayaquil. Sucre, Bolivar's right hand, saves Ecuador by winning the Battle of Tarqui in 1829. Jose Maria Cordoba, one of Bolivar's top generals, stages a revolt against Bolivar. This is swiftly crushed. And Venezuela secedes from Gran Colombia in the fall of 1829, having basically going, listen, Bolivar, we're your home country. We need a constitution. We are a republic. Goodbye.
Oh, that breakup must have been unfortunate.
Yep. Bolivar realizes his dream of the united Hispanic America is dead in 1830, and so he abdicates from his presidency and makes plans to leave for Europe. However, he never does, because prior to leaving, he names Sucre as his successor, much like a monarch would.
I'll say, what authority?
I don't think it's going to go quite well, because I don't think it quite gets to that point.
Yeah, I am president. I have announced that the winner of the election to succeed me as president is, by one vote out of one, this man.
And then gunshots echo in the distance.
Yep. Sucre is assassinated before Bolivar can leave for Europe. People, if you had waited one day, you were this close.
Literally. He couldn't.
Yep. Horribly depressed, Bolivar refuses to leave for Europe and instead goes to visit a Spanish admirer of his in Santa Marta, where he dies of tuberculosis in this man's house. On December the 17th, 1830, finally ending the long and surprisingly violent reign of Simon Bolivar.
So that's the one last thing that I want to add to that is the story of his death, where he commanded his second in command to burn all of his stories, all of his letters, all of his documents. He wanted nothing preserved, and he betrayed the order and saved everything, including letters to and from his mistress, which later on, she also donated her letters and his letters that she had to the collection. So now we have this wonderful collection that we know Bolivar's ideas, we know his ideals, we know his intimate thoughts. Like, it is such a cool, interesting insight, and that comes from an Irishman. Your people saved
Yep.
something.
Yeah, my people do a lot of things. Okay.
They do. They do a lot of things very
But
well.
yeah,
Mercenaries.
but the I thought. But yeah, Bolivar is a good enough place to end it. Bolivar, he's clearly a man larger than life. He's clearly a man with a vision before his time. He's clearly a man who is torn between two different sets of ideals and tries repeatedly and fails to reconcile them. Is he a hero? Maybe not, but he's definitely not the villain of his own story. At least he can say that, which is more than most historical figures can get away with.
Especially dictators.
Yeah, he's a villain to someone, just not himself.
Well, on that bombshell, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.